Who do you rely on for information? The people who have dedicated their lives to trying to secure it, or the people proven repeatedly and incontrovertibly to lie like it's going out of fashion? I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong. Lügenpresse? Is it Lügenpresse? Listening to Donald Trump a moment ago describing various news organizations in the United States as scum was quite a moment, wasn't it? I mean, he's done it all before, but possibly not at a NATO summit. Listing any organisation still dedicated to trying to sift the facts or separate the fiction from the facts, or, of course, alternative facts, as Donald Trump and his acolytes prefer to call fiction. It brought that phrase back to mind for me. It became popular, I think, in 19th century Germany, but it was one of the ways in which Hitler persuaded the German people that up was down, that black was white, that 7 million people, mostly Jews, deserved to be exterminated. That's how you do it, by persuading people to believe lies and to ignore the truth. And, of course, the question very simply of whether or not the UK should be supportive of this action by Donald Trump is, I mean, it's almost impossible to express what a ridiculous question that is. Did we learn nothing from Iraq? If you can go to war on false intelligence and end up looking stupid and being responsible, in the case of the politicians that led us there, for the rise of ISIS and God knows how many miserable, hideous atrocities visited upon Western countries, then you'd have thought this time round, as they prepare to drop missiles again with a less stable president than last time on a Middle Eastern country in exactly the same part of the world, you'd have thought that the importance of intelligence would have been higher than ever, wouldn't you? Oh, man. You'd have thought now, given what we know, that the expertise of the intelligence community would be more important than ever before. But what do we have instead? What do we have instead? We have, a man who claims that he won an election that he lost, flanked by a defense secretary whose previous contributions to public discourse consisted of presenting gigs on Fox News, and whose personal life reads like a sort of 1970s potboiler novel. Anybody qualified, anybody remotely competent has been completely removed from the power structure. People like Fiona Hill, the Russia expert, who was at least able to urge caution last time round, they have all been completely removed. It is an administration consisting entirely of cronies. And the reason why he can't have anybody competent around him is because they would apply even the vaguest pressure on his posturing, on his lies. I mean, you hesitate, even if you're as clear-eyed as we are, you sort of hesitate to describe what we witnessed this morning in the terms that it demands, because it's still the President of the United States. Mark Rutte, I don't know if he was expecting his sycophantic message to be publicised, but he's doing a Keir Starmer. And I'm not sure they have any choice but to try to mollify the man-child. Do they have any choice? That might well be the phone-in today. You have to try to mollify the man-child, even when it involves broadcasting, accepting, congratulating him on a failure. How do you know it's a failure? Because the US intelligence community says so. In fact, we got there first, didn't we, on this programme? I think it was Balama who rang in and said that he was a little bit confused as to why Israel had already returned to the sites of the US attacks if they had been so successful. I probably should have paid even more attention than we usually do to Balama. But there it is. I mean, the intelligence community in the US now confirming that it was not a success. Who said it? Why did he use the word obliterate before there was any information coming in at all? I told you yesterday, because he needs to write the alternative reality. He thinks, with some justification, he thinks he can make the untrue true simply by repeating it so insistently that many people end up believing that it must be true, even though their eyes and their ears tell them that it's not. And you don't need me to remind you of that classic line from 1984 by George Orwell, that the final act, the worst act of all, was when they told you to ignore the evidence of your eyes and ears. And that's what he's doing every single day. You can't do it without attacking the media, so he's attacked the media. I don't know whether Rutte and Starmer have any choice. I mean, at least the Labour government has found the cojones on this occasion to refuse to actually support an action that has yet to be justified. That the existence of enriched uranium doesn't justify the attacks upon Iran. It would be the proximity to turning it into a bomb, something that has not been proven and something which, again, his own intelligence community said categorically was not the case. His own director of national intelligence. You think I exaggerate sometimes when I talk about the scale of the lie. His own director of national intelligence says there was no truth in the claim that they were about to create a bomb. Benjamin Netanyahu had been making the same claim since 1992. You can be in favour of removing enriched uranium from Iran, but then, I mean, you'd have to explain to me why you're not also in favour of removing actual nuclear bombs from Israel, which refuses to sign up to any of the international proliferation treaties. It's one of those mornings, and I'm so glad that we get to spend them together, because otherwise I shall go mad, Horatio. It's one of those mornings where you simultaneously note the sheer scale of the takeover, the abandonment of truth, the rejection of reality, and you also still marvel at it. You also think it can't quite be true. So I sit here, I'm prepared to come on air, watching that press conference, the NATO press conference, and I mean, yesterday he used the F word to describe Israel and Iran in public. It's as if the boundaries of normality have been completely destroyed now. The parameters of civilized behaviour have been completely destroyed. Attacking journalists, some of whom will be risking their lives in war-torn countries and various trouble spots at the moment. Donald Trump, who invented a medical condition to avoid service in the Iran war, criticising, calling people who risked their lives to provide the public with the truth about things, calling them scum. Quite incredible. And you sit there and you wonder whether you're the one that is watching alternative reality. You wonder whether you're the one that is sort of missing something, and then he'll say something so categorically and obviously untrue that you are reminded once again that, again, to quote George Orwell, who is very, very relevant at the moment, I have to tell you, not least on the refugee question, which we haven't talked about for a while, but to quote George Orwell, if you can hold on to the truth, even if you are the only one, you will not go mad. So who do you, I mean, see, the problem we have, again, is if you think about the questions that are thrown up by the events of this morning, if you're going to spend 30 seconds thinking about it rather than just sort of reaching immediately for a Sun-style hotline, then the questions actually illustrate the madness of the moment. So who do you trust more? Donald Trump, who lies about everything, or the US intelligence community? I can't ask that question. It's stupid. It would be like asking, who do you trust more, David Attenborough or the flat earthers? Just for the avoidance of doubt, in this scenario, the flat earthers represent Donald Trump and his acolytes. Who do you trust more? The people who say the earth is flat? Do not at me to tell me that the earth is flat. Seriously, I'll ban you from the programme forever, even if it's in jest. Who do you trust more? 0345, the flat earthers or David Attenborough? NASA. Who do you trust more? Oh, Donald Trump, definitely. Yay. Woohoo. He's great. And I just don't know. They all know, by the way. Mark Rutte, I imagine, will be a little dismayed that his message has been made public. But at the same time, he sent it for one reason and one reason only. Their nightmare at the moment is for Trump to either denigrate or even withdraw from NATO. So they are tickling his toes. Keir Starmer has brought forward, I don't know if you know this, the state visit, reportedly against the wishes of King Charles. And he has done so in the hope of keeping Donald Trump sweet. I don't think that works, but I think that's a very sort of subjective position. I just don't think he possesses a concept of credit. This is my thought for the day, by the way. If you think of a reservoir of goodwill, I don't think Trump has the capacity for it. It cuts both ways. It means that if you are buttering him up, if you're cozying up to him, if you're sucking up to him today in the hope of being treated more favourably tomorrow, then you are wasting your time. There is no point sending him sycophantic messages about what a great success this attack upon Iran was, even as the US intelligence community reveals that it wasn't. You're doing it, well, I mean, it may be that you're just doing it to get through the next 24-hour news cycle, which is all that Donald Trump cares about. And what you don't want to happen in the next 24-hour news cycle is for him to denigrate or, God forbid, threaten to withdraw from NATO. So you don't store up any credit, I don't think. And the converse of that is that you can be his sworn enemy today and his best friend tomorrow. There's no moral compass. There's no reservoir of goodwill or even ill will, because he's utterly devoid of what we would consider to be traditional morality. It's how he can be vile, hideously vile, to Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office, and then today at the NATO meeting at The Hague, he will be glad handing him and Zelensky has no choice but to go along with it. It's the thing about power, isn't it? It debases the people that hold it. If they allow themselves to be debased, it debases everyone around them. Zelensky is surely one of the most principled world leaders, or at least one of the most impressive and courageous world leaders that we've seen in our lifetime. Zelensky has to stand there and be abused by Donald Trump and his idiot acolytes. He has to, because of the balance of power in the world. And today at The Hague, he'll have to glad hand him. He may even have to say nice things about him. The media still doesn't know how to handle this, but other world leaders, whether it's the head of NATO, Mark Rutte, or whether it's Keir Starmer, adopting a different path from some other European leaders because they have to, because we're so incredibly weakened by Brexit. We no longer move as part of a meaningful bloc. We're this sort of lonely little island, desperately trying to punch above its weight. But what else can they do? Rutte has to suck up to him because he needs to keep NATO intact. Starmer has to suck up to him because of the power Trump can wield over what's left of our international trade or our own situations. And I honestly don't know whether or not they have any choice at all. Sorry, I've got quite a lot to say today. I didn't think I was going to. I haven't even played the footage or the recording of that report. But the question I think that we'll ask at the end of it is whether or not do you know what I'd do if this was like a symposium? Does the media have to go along with this in the way that it does? Do the journalists that are present, who was the pushiest, who was the most vocal, who actually said this isn't true, this isn't reality, this has been denied by everybody? They kind of almost get into the room and start and become infected by the alternative facts. But I don't think that's an interesting phone-in for our purposes. I think what I want you to tell me is whether or not the sycophancy is inevitable and necessary, and therefore the right thing to do.